Can you briefly introduce and tell me what are you doing now and how is it going on?
I'm Maha. I work as a project manager with LivableStreets Alliance. I work in the transit space. What we do is we sit with the city. We work with MBTA, which is like the transit agency for Massachusetts. And we come up with plans of how to bring in like voices of the community and how to make sure that they're represented in those plans. And I do that in the transit space. So I kind of like advocate for, let's say, fare free buses or better transit times, or how we can make biking safer, or how to have like protected bike lanes. So that's the kind of stuff that I've been doing lately. It's not your traditional planning, it's more on the advocacy side. Is that enough of an introduction? Is that
Yes. So
okay?
how's Boston treating you? Going from New York to Boston, how does that feel?
I think New York is a mega city, and with a mega city you get a lot of like 24/7 services, and life is very exciting. And then you move to a little city called Boston. So it's a bit of an adjustment, but I will say Boston is very, very pretty. But I think if you're a planner and if you have the opportunity, you should live in New York City, because it will change your how you view planning, how you see people can coexist. The culture of the city is so unique. The way the transit system is, like, I know a lot of people complain about how filthy it is, how old it is, but once you move to other places in the US, you realize how effective that system is in moving people. So I'm a big fan of New York City. I love it despite the craziness, despite what people say that it is not the most clean city. Yes, it's not, but what it gives you is actually the big city living, like walkable. You will find so much to do, and it's just a beautiful city. And it's also not what people think it is. It's not Times Square, it's not Statue of Liberty. It's so much more than that. So find a true New Yorker to show you around whenever you're there. Boston, I would say, is much more calmer. It's a very old city, so it's, I think, coming from Pakistan, you might find Boston easier to navigate because it's not a grid system. It is very small, it's very walkable. The transit here looks very nice. It's very clean. It's not effective, which is why I'm here.
So, Maha, why did you come from Pakistan?
I come from a family that values education a lot. And my father was very, very adamant long time ago. Like, it wasn't even when I graduated or whatever. He knew that I was going to go and study abroad, my master's, whatever I wanted to study. I think post NCA, I was started working as an architect in Pakistan, and I did like 1.5 year of working as an architect. It was good. There were highs, there were lows. The best part was I got to do some amazing projects. The lows were, it's not the most creative field. Like, if you have all of these ideas and stuff, I think Pakistan may, at least at that time, I don't know, as of recent, maybe there are some like different like venues, or just like different practices. But back then it was like, oh, this is a picture, please copy this railing from this, or this. So it was, I just felt very like professionally, like very caged in. I did not see myself growing there. I was very frustrated with my job situation. And then eventually I think my dad, like, he was like, "के बेटा आप यहाँ से जाएं, बाहर पढ़ें." So my dad, being the hero that he is, he was like, "I will help you do all of this," and he pushed me, and he was like, "Chalo, chalo, chalo," and that's how I came to New York.
That's very
Yeah,
inspiring coming from Pakistan um,
yeah,
and that how things work over there, and especially your dad
yeah,
pushing a girl, oh, just go and study. That's a huge
yeah.
thing. So tell me about NCA, National College of Art. A lot of people probably
Hmm.
don't know who's the audience, international audience. Talk about it. What did you do there briefly, and how was the transition coming to from NCA to Parsons? What was the difference that you saw?
So NCA stands for National College of Arts. I went to the one in Lahore. Back then, I think one of the things that NCA had to offer, which I don't think a lot of art colleges offers, is like you get to actually be around people from all walks of life. And I think that is the strength of NCA. I did my architecture from there, but I think what really helped me hone on some of my skills, make my, or even develop myself as a designer was being around like such diversity. And I know diversity, we use this word very casually. I don't think I can take it lightly when it comes to NCA, because it's not even about people who come from different like areas of Pakistan. It's also like the diversity in your incomes and all of that, and that changes you as a designer, because you actually talk to interact with people who have seen life very differently than you. And I think to be a critical designer, that is very important. And I think NCA was that bubble that gave us all that space, and also like protecting us from what was happening around us. It's a very, very liberal institute. It lets you explore all kinds of stuff that you want to do, your ideas. I got to study with one of the best faculty that I could have gotten in Pakistan. And then I went to Parsons. And Parsons, like if there was an equal to NCA in New York, I think that was Parsons. Because Parsons, though I would say it is definitely a private institute and is definitely a very, very expensive school to be in, if you get a scholarship or if you have the means to be there, it gives you the same kind of freedom that NCA does. As a urban planner, we were never asked to like sit in our studios and look at like a neighborhood and draw lines and say like, oh, we're going to add this and this is going to make the community better, or we're going to add this and this is going to make the community better. I think Parsons was all about go into the community, ask what they want, and then be the in between person between city planning and those people. And that's all you need to do as a designer. And I think a lot of these ideas that I had started talking about in Pakistan with NCA, with my architecture program, I think those questions finally found their home in like Parsons, like the practice of it at least. The difference that I felt, and I think that is a big one. And I think maybe I don't know about other institutes in Pakistan, but for NCA, I can say that we don't necessarily put too much stress on research, and especially like the academic research. And I think coming here as a grad student, you have to do a lot of readings and you have to do write so many papers. As a person who's been an architect and who's been a designer, I did not put too much stress on that skill, and neither did NCA. Like, like ever put too much stress on us writing papers or like researching. So I think over when I came here, that was my biggest struggle. Like, I literally did not know how to cite papers. I'm like being very candid. Like, I had not by this time done any like big major research. The only research thing that I did in NCA was my thesis. In Western like academia, a lot of things that they talk about when it says walkable cities, walkable like having a very dense programming in an area, having multimodal streets, having um like different usages in one building. I find it very funny because if you come from Lahore or you come from any South Asian city, that is literally our city, what it used to be before we started making these underpasses, flyover bridges. Like before we went to the car centric model of our cities were actually like that. You go to like Anarkali, like I said, you go to Anarkali. Any street in Anarkali is a multimodal street. You have cycles, you have tongas, you have cars, you have trucks, you have humans walking on those streets. You have like literally a commercial strip at the bottom, you have warehouses on the top, you have residential above that. I feel like there is a thing or two that the Western academia can learn from our cities, and they are. I feel like the only thing that they're doing with this knowledge is like actually finding ways of making it, formalizing it.
Talk about some cultural shocks, because we have all grown up watching Hollywood films or international cinema, and
Yeah.
then we have this image. I'm sitting in New York right now, and before I came here, everything was like I had some kind of imagination, but when I landed
Yeah.
and start living here, everything changed. So, what was your journey when you came here? Anything that you had perceived before, or your expectation culturally? How did you deal with that, and how was that?
The sense of like popular culture, I think, is same songs, Britney Spears, this and that, we all know them. What we don't know is like when you come here, you will interact with people from all over the world, not just from the US. And New York City is a bubble. There are more, I would say, progressive, open people in New York, and not in the way that they dress or they behave or whatever, or they do behave progressively, but not in the way they dress or how they look, but in the way they conduct themselves. I think New York will, parts of it will be very welcoming, which is when you come here, you will find Pakistani food. You will find cultural centers to hang out. You will find like there's NYU Islamic Center, which like you will find very accepting of going there, Juma prayers, this and that, like for your aftaris, for sairis. So there is this acceptability that you find, but I think coming from Pakistan, the scale of the city, especially if you're coming to New York, the scale of the city is something that you probably did not have in mind. Like move to especially the western part of the world. I think over here people can be very outwardly friendly, but they're not your friends. And I don't mean it in a way that they're being mean, but I think over here the level of frankness and the way people reach it is very different than how South Asian cultures exist. Like I will have South Asian friends that I can call up right now and be like, I'm showing up, make food for me. I don't think it's the same over here. I think over here people are, they conduct themselves very differently. And I think there is a reason for it because everybody is working. It's very hard to live in the cities. So nobody has the time, that extra time to spare and like, accommodate you.
Yeah, I have been through that. I think it doesn't it's not an easy thing. As an international
Yeah.
student, you come here. The realities are very different. When you come here, it's a very individualistic approach. Everybody is
Yeah.
doing their own grind. Can you advise or suggest anything that people who are in school, that they can do right now in school that you haven't done or you wish that you have done at that time?
I think networking is something that Parsons did not help a lot with, but I think because of the way our programs were, we like, it's a smaller program, so I knew people the year above me, and so somehow you do have a bit of a network, and because you live in New York City and you attend so many events, so you do build that. But it had to start not like near your graduation point. It's something you start, like I would say literally the day you start your program, start networking. Have a very good LinkedIn profile. That helps so much. I did not have a profile before this. Have a profile. Update, put updates about your projects on those. Have a very, very updated website, LinkedIn, some page where companies can actually access your information. And that's a resource, but that's a resource you have to create and not something that's given to you.
How did you approach this job search process as an international
Mhm.
student? And did your professor slash school
Yeah.
help you in that process?
When it came to like finding jobs, I think one of my professors, Evren, she was actually the person who I used as a recommendation for my first job. And somehow she had a connection with my supervisor back then, and I got the job. That's how I got my first job. And I didn't even know that they somehow knew each other, but when they talked on the phone and they, I guess, connected, and they were like, oh, we know each other. So that really worked out for me, and that's how I got my first job. And it didn't take me a lot of time after college. Obviously, as an international student, it's never easy to get a job. Your first job will always be tough. One of the advice that I got from a really good senior was apply, apply, apply. Even if they don't respond, it's okay. Keep applying. And there, one of the things that they said was, if you are this amazing, talented person, we are in New York City. There's so many other people like you as well here. So don't take it personally. Once they offer you the job, make sure to understand. their sponsorship policies. And I had a very open conversation with my supervisor at that time. He was actually leaving the job, and I was taking over a lot of his responsibilities. And he had been sponsored by this very company, and then eventually he went on to get a green card from the same company. So I was like, okay, I have a living example of, someone who went through the same trajectory. So this is amazing. And I think 6 months into the job, I asked my boss, like, if he would be willing to do my H-1B sponsorship. And he said he's fine with it. The way my journey is different is because I worked for a nonprofit. So when you work with a nonprofit um, organization, you do not have to go through the H-1B lottery. I started my green card process before the pandemic, but post pandemic, my company was like, we're no longer doing sponsorships. And I was actually at my first stage before they were like, we can go ahead now. So this is what I mean by pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic life. And I feel like a lot of kids who are coming now are in the post-pandemic era where the sponsorship and stuff is a little more tight than what it used to be. And once you interview, know their sponsorship policies, and a lot of data is available online. You can see if they have done green card sponsorships, if they have done H-1B sponsorship. That is publicly available data. So if you don't want to ask them, check their like there's like I think if you just Google it, you'll find that immigration website link. Ask them about sponsorship stuff. Do not stay in any job if you require sponsorship within a year. Do not stay in a job more than 6 months without knowing if they sponsor, if they don't, or if they will sponsor you.
So, Maha, let's talk about some finances because that's the most important part. Because we're all excited, we come here, but deep down, money is the most important factor if your country is suffering from dollar rate and 40% inflation and a lot of economic and political problems. So, how did you manage your finances as an international student, especially considering
Yeah.
the exchange rates and tuition fees and all of that combined?
Yeah. So I will say the one of the biggest like expense that you will have when once you're here, especially if you're living in one of the big cities like LA, New York, or Chicago or somewhere, is the rent. Rent will be your biggest chunk out of your pocket. When I came here, thankfully enough, my aunt used to live in Brooklyn, and I stayed with her for like a year and a half because I did not have enough at that point to pay rent. And I also wanted to pay for some of my tuition fee. So what I did
I
was I
need
started
that.
working.
I need that
Yeah,
aunt as
like
well.
everybody needs that aunt. Yeah, she was an angel. She kept me for a year and a half. And because of that, I was able to save money and pay for my tuition. And I think that for me was one of the biggest like ways how I financially made this even happen, because I come from a very middle class family. Like we did not have Parsons, and New York life is very very expensive even back then, even when the dollar rate wasn't as crazy as it is right now. I couldn't afford this life, and I think having her here was my only way of surviving. The other thing I would suggest is, initially when you're here, I know people coming from Pakistan, we all like, even if we're from middle class backgrounds, we do enjoy certain comforts and certain like um like we, even if we have a lot of space, and our houses are generally like more spacious than what you will find in New York. And I feel like people go for like expensive apartments. I will say the one thing is like, share with someone. It's your first year, you're just experiencing life. It is going to be difficult. Stay far away, save on that rent, save your money, put it into like experiences, put it into like, if you have to pay your tuition. I think that is the only way. Like rent is the thing that you need to control on. The rest, I can tell you that New York has cheap food. New York has cheap forms of entertainment. Transit is cheap. You need to have a credit history. It's very important. People don't tell you that. And I think the best way is there's a few like student credit cards, like Discover is one of them. I started with that. I had that. It has like, it used to have a very small limit. It was like I think $800 or something back then. And then as you maintain your credit card, like you buy some stuff out off of it, and then you pay it back, they start increasing your limit. And I think that is very, very important. The minute you step into the US, start building your credit history. It's so sad, but this is a capitalist world and anything that in future you will need, like even if you eventually, once you're out of school system and you're earning and you want to buy a car, you want to buy other stuff, credit history will have such a big role in that.
Is there anything you wish that you knew before coming to the US?
Mm, yes. I think nobody prepares you for the individualistic side of society that we briefly touched upon in the beginning. I think the loneliness that comes with living here and being away from your family, nobody prepares you for. No matter how cut off you are from your relationships when you're in Pakistan, when you're here, it's a very different kind of loneliness. Like, you're sick, you're alone, you need to take care of yourself. You need to move your house to a different state. If you don't have your immediate like cousins, brothers, sisters over here, you will have to hop on that U-Haul, find people, hire people to move stuff, bring it here, load all of your stuff into your new apartment. So that thing nobody prepares you for, like that you step into like adult life in the most like crude way possible. Like you are just thrown in and you're like fend for yourself. If you have relatives here and they live in proximity, it will always help. But even though that is a good, like a support system to have, the way these cities are built and these societies are built, you are left to fend for yourself. So nobody prepared me for that. And I will always tell anyone who comes here, when you are here the first 2 3 months, you will be depressed. And you, no matter how good of a life you have here, it is depressing. You will question your decision to come here. It'll be hard to make friends, but then eventually, as time passes, you'll figure shit out. So I think that's something that I wish somebody had told me.
Okay, so that's a so hard thing. So how
I feel like
did
yeah.
yeah, tell me,
No,
what
I
were
was
you
gonna
going to
say I
say?
feel like everyone experiences it, but like I think it, like, yeah, to varying degrees. I think everybody experiences
I
it.
think even that happened to me here before when I came here first 4 months were the most difficult ones, and I went back home after 4 months because I was like, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this because you don't know how to deal with it. It's
No.
difficult, and nobody
Yeah.
talks about it. Everybody share those. Most of your friends who are back home or here, they see your Instagram stories and then they think, oh wow, such a life, right? But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
digital life and real life is very, very different, which nobody
Yeah.
talks about. And everybody is sharing those beautiful moments on their social medias and
Yeah.
everything. But
Y-
it's just
Yeah.
like, it's just not how it is in real life. So I think that's
No.
very, very important. People really need to realize that, oh, we coming here,
Mm.
it's a different world.
It's a different world. Like, you'll miss your best friend's wedding back home. You'll see all of them being together. You'll see your family getting together, and you'll be here sitting alone, doing your own thing. Like, you love this life because you're independent and it's giving you all of the things that you wanted. But it comes with a cost, and I think we sometimes kind of like with all the flashy stuff that we're getting, we don't talk about the stuff that we have to let go of, and that's the idea of like being back home.
Anybody who is living in Pakistan right now, or South Asia, specifically, I think you come from Pakistan, so you know more about that. Um, you want to say people who are right now there and thinking to apply or coming here, what do you want to say to them?
I would say apply and do not, like, even though it is difficult, do not shy away. You need this. You need to see the world, especially with Pakistan situation. I wish everyone who has the circumstances and the means can come to the US. I will say fight for your scholarships. I did not realize this when I was applying, but once they've given you admission, you actually have more say in like pestering them for scholarships. And a lot of my friends told me this later. And so I will say, even though I got a scholarship, I could have gotten a bigger one if I had fought for it. So if they say no, they say no. But please do not hesitate and do not think it beneath you to be like, I need more money. Pakistan's economy is not doing well. So do try your bestest to get as many scholarships as you can. And when you're applying, look for don't look at universities, look at programs, because I feel like that is one thing that we do is go for big names. Sometimes big universities, they have like Columbia could be known for like a program. Like Columbia's art school, I don't think it's amazing. So if you're an artist, I don't think you should go for Columbia versus Parsons. I think Parsons might be a better bet for your work than like, so look at programs like whichever program you're interested in, and then search for programs instead of like universities. And then within those programs, I think it's always a good idea to look at who your professors are, and it's also a good idea to reach out to them before you're applying and be like, hey, I want to know more about the program. I want to know how you conduct this. People over here are very, very open to talking to you and giving you like that one-on-one. It also, I think, will help you in your admission process if you know someone beforehand. This is also building network before even coming here. So
Last question. Is it all worth it?
1000%, 1000%, all the
Okay.
loneliness one side, but I don't think as a single woman, I would say I don't think I would have this amazing quality of life back home. I miss my parents. I miss like them being here, but I have like I think I'm in a place where I can have them here and they can stay with me as long as they want. I do not think as a single woman I can afford this quality of life by just working as an architect or working as a planner. And I think it is 1000 absolutely worth it. You shouldn't be sitting around like in your day, bijli nahi aa rahi, pani nahi aa raha, like fussing over these small things in life and not enjoying this, beautiful thing that's life. So 1000% worth it, but it's not easy. Comes with a cost, and just be prepared for that cost.
Thank you so much, Maha, for your time and beautiful insights and realistic insights about life and living in
Fun.
US. Yes. Uh,
Thank you.
I
Yeah, thank
this
you for
this
having me. Yeah.
this was the best, I think, conversation. Even though we met so much times, but this was great. Yeah. Thank you so much.